What's up, everyone? This is going to be a video on whether or not you should play ESO in 2023. A lot of times, opinions on whether or not a game is still worth playing often come from either super hardcore veteran players saying the game is dying, or from brand new players saying the game is incredible. I wanted to do a quick video about whether or not ESO is worth playing from the perspective of an intermediate player. I'm certainly not the greatest or sweatiest ESO player, but I have seen most of what the game has to offer. I'm still coming back almost every day and having a lot of fun. I wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences with the game, whether or not the game is still worth getting into if you are thinking of playing it. I enjoy pretty much all the activities in the game, from PvP to questing to the dungeons and trials. I like decorating my house and petting animals and stealing stuff, feeding on people as a vampire. I even like the new card game. So I feel that my perspective is relatively balanced. In this video, I will address my experience with the game, what the game does right, places where I don't think it's as strong as it could be, and whether or not it's worth your time. Whether or not it is worth your time is really going to come down to what kind of player you are. So a little bit about me. The Elder Scrolls games, they're my favorite game series ever. The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind is my favorite game of all time. So for me, getting into ESO was mostly about Morrowind nostalgia. My intro to the game was kind of a dream come true. The land of Vardenfell was alive again. Once more, I could live in it for many thousand hours. I got to level 50 in a few weeks, mostly by clearing the Vardenfell zone and then the other Dark Elf zones. I decided to subscribe and become ESO Plus after hitting level 50 because I needed that crafting bag. You can get by without subscribing in this game, but you cannot really engage with the crafting system without subscribing. If what you want out of the game is just experiencing the quests of the base game, not having a subscription will be fine. You'll get at least 1,000 hours out of the quests with no subscription. But if you want to really participate in crafting and the end game, it's going to be very hard to get by without a subscription. Many of the items and the ability to easily store the materials for crafting is going to be locked behind that subscription. For me, I don't really mind the subscription so much because you get a bunch of crowns with it. A lot of MMOs, when I sub, it gets easy to feel like I have to play to get my money's worth, and then I get burned out. In ESO, I don't really have that problem because out of the $15 a month for the sub, you get $10 in crowns. So the sub is really like $5 for the actual playtime of a month. For me, it's a good value, but if you don't have the extra money each month to sub, a lot of the game, and especially the crafting system, are going to be outside your reach. It will still be a fun questing experience if you love Elder Scrolls games, but it will be very hard to play at any sort of competitive level. Something to understand about ESO is it's not really catered to the hardcore MMO crowd. It's catered to single-player Elder Scrolls games players and more casual players. This is the main reason you're going to hear such positive things from casual players and such negative things about the game from super hardcore players. Most of the progression in the game is horizontal, not vertical. For good or for bad, ESO has chosen to focus and prioritize the experience of the casual player. If you're a super hardcore MMO player who plays for like 10 hours a day, you're very quickly going to hit the upper edge of that horizontal progression and feel like you don't really have anything to do. But as a casual player, that means you don't have to grind for many thousands of hours to be competitive. I feel like a lot of complaints from veteran players are because of that horizontal progression. But that same system is also what makes the game so accessible and fun to the casual and new players. You really don't need to grind for thousands of hours to get to the fun part. The fun part kind of starts at the very beginning. The demographic that will have the most fun in ESO is people who love the single player Elder Scrolls games, who are kind of casual players. That's really who the experience is catered towards. The quests, they're very good. There's no pointless MMO fetch quests. All the quests have full voice acting and interesting and good stories. There are dungeons and quests in the game that I consider to be some of the best in all the Elder Scrolls games, single player games included. For this reason, I don't think the game's ever going to really die. The new player experience is just so good. The quests and story of the game would be fun, even if it was a single player game. If you love Elder Scrolls games and exploring and doing quests, ESO has many thousands of hours of quests to offer you. It's like Skyrim, but across all of Tamriel. This is further enhanced by the first-person mode. You can't really do the group dungeons or the PvP in first person because of the field of view, but playing through the story quests in first person, it really feels like you're playing an Elder Scrolls game with a skill bar. If you're a lover of the single-player games, looking for more Elder Scrolls adventures to have, I think that Elder Scrolls Online has a lot to offer you. Most of the overworld quests are designed for one player, and they are pretty easy. If you play them with a friend, they're going to be really easy. For group content, the best thing to do is to clear the world bosses on the map and do group dungeons. Both of these experiences are pretty fun to do with friends. I still haven't gotten all the world bosses in the game, there's a lot. Something important to note is that players who seek a super hardcore challenge are not really going to get that from the overworld content, especially once they're past level 50, and even more so after they pass the gear cap, because everything stops scaling up after the gear cap. After the gear cap, the only way you're going to get a challenge in PvE is by soloing group content. For me, I don't really mind this, because after leveling my character up to like the gear cap, I like feeling powerful. Like, I don't need a random cliff racer to give me a challenge. Like, if I want a challenge, I try to go solo a world boss or do a dungeon solo. In a way, it reminds me of Elder Scrolls games before everything started scaling to your level, like in Morrowind. After you become high level, the normal monsters and bosses are super easy. You have to go find some group zones, some really nasty places to really get a challenge. If you're someone who likes super difficult games, ESO solo content is really not going to have much to offer you. The real challenge is in the PvP, the group content, and especially like the veteran dungeons and trials. Crafting and trading is not super strong in ESO. There are some craftable armors that sell well and make it worth crafting. Also, being able to craft furniture for your house is pretty cool. But selling things can really be hard because there's no auction house. Everything's locked to guild traders. As a mostly solo player, this is not my favorite system, but it is what it is. You can join a trading guild and sell your stuff there. But honestly, if you're someone who plays MMOs mostly for a fleshed out crafting experience, I think that there's games that do it a lot better than ESO. Something interesting that ESO has, but a lot of MMOs don't, is the crime system. You can be a thief, you can pickpocket, break into people's houses, just like murder people. You get a bounty and the guards will try to chase you. This system, it's okay. The money you make from it's not super great. Sometimes you can make a little more money if you sell the crafting recipes that you find. Um, the system is a lot better if you have ESO Plus or you buy the Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood DLCs. That fleshes it out a lot more. All in all, I enjoy the crime system. Like, I've maxed it out. It's not the greatest, but most MMOs have no system like that at all. It's nice to have, especially if you're playing a Nightblade. I do think this system has a lot of room for improvement, but I doubt it's gonna get any. I think it's more likely that they're gonna add new systems than improve the crime system. Another system that they have is the Antiquities system. This is kind of locked behind a paywall. You need to buy the Western Skyrim DLC or have ESO Plus to access this system. But it is super important. Many of the best items in the game are found in this system. It's kind of repetitive and grindy to level it all the way up. But once you have it leveled, you're not only going to find super powerful mythic items, but also some really cool items for decorating your house. Speaking of housing, I've never played an MMO that does housing as well as ESO. Some of the houses are locked behind crown purchases, but there are many houses you can buy in-game with the in-game gold, sometimes after completing specific achievements. Right now, I'm currently working on getting the achievements so I can buy the castle in Ebonheart with gold. That's kind of a long-term goal I've been working on. If you're a player who wants to get a house and decorate it, ESO has a lot to offer you. Even without spending any crowns, you can buy houses with gold. Not all of them, but many of them. And you can buy some pretty good ones with the gold. And most of the furniture in the game, you can buy it with crowns, but also a lot of it you can buy from guild traders. You can find some cool stuff in Antiquities, and you can craft furniture yourself. If you're a PvP focused player, you should probably know that ESO has not added any new PvP content in many years. The PvP that is there is fun when it works. There's a 4-person team arena with 3 teams of 4. There's the Imperial City where it's kind of player versus monsters, where you're trying to get Telvar, which is like a special currency. Then there's large-scale battles in Cyrodiil to control all these castles and territories. Kind of like Dark Age of Camelot, pretty much. A lot of players, they have performance issues when the battles get too big in Cyrodiil. Imperial City and the arena normally work a lot better. These systems are pretty fun, but for the veteran players who've been playing these for like 8 years, it's pretty obvious that they have gotten a little stale. I'm still having fun with the PvP, but I've only been here for a couple years. If you see players complaining about the state of ESO, there's like a 90% chance they're a PvP player. If hardcore MMO PvP is what you really want, honestly, ESO, it may not be the best game for you. There is some PvP there, but it's definitely not the focus of the game. There are some more PvP focused games that do it a lot better. The strength of ESO is really in the quality of the quests and the stories, not as much in the PvP. So, should you play ESO in 2023? It really just depends on what you want from an MMO. If you're a lover of the Elder Scrolls games and want some content, ESO has a lot to offer. If you're a casual player who only has a few hours here and there to play a game, ESO is kind of perfect because of the horizontal progression. For me, I really like ESO because I only have a few hours each day, sometimes less, and I get to live my little life in Tamriel. I'm always hanging out in Vivek. It almost reminds me of Daggerfall, where it's almost like a little fantasy life simulator. If you're someone who wants a super deep crafting system, there are games that do crafting way better. If you're a super hardcore player looking for a real grind to sink your teeth into so you can grind and have all the best stuff and walk around having all the best stuff and people being like, wow, honestly, ESO, it's probably not the game for you. There's a couple thousand hours of grind you can probably do, but you're going to hit the upper limit of that horizontal progression really fast. Then you're going to get to the point where the only way you can get better items is by buying them in the crown store, which I don't think that's really what the grind-focused MMO players really want as from the game. If you're a super PvP-focused player, there is a little bit of fun to be had, but it's really not the focus of the devs, and they're not really adding anything new. I think that there are MMOs out there with way more fleshed out and supported PvP experiences. Yeah, so it's really a perfect game for the more casual and story focused player. Anyway, you guys, hopefully this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'm still kind of new to making these videos, but I'm trying my best. Maybe I will see you in Tamriel. I play on PC, North America. Let me know if you want to play together. I'm always looking for new friends, especially if they're vampires. Hope that you all have super lovely day, and thanks for listening.